Hello. Hello. Hmm. Oh, Michael, thank you so much. I really felt all the love and support today. That was so nice. It was really nice. And I um yay. Oh, I love that. That's like ocean colors. I think that's so cute. I hope everyone had a good day. I know. I know. I was so happy to be with her. We can't say much, but I was very happy. I was very happy to have her with me. It was amazing. It was amazing watching her. People would come up and ask, what were we talking about? And she would just beautifully explain so patiently, you know, what we were doing and what we were trying to accomplish. And what strikes me always about some of our friends, most of our friends actually, is that they are so kind and patient. And I don't have that. I don't have that patience. So it's been a good day for me. It worked out well. I felt like I was able to get a message out. Oh, my computer's dying. Hold on just a moment. Bear with me just a moment here. Technology is not our friend. Hold on just a moment. Hold on. What I say. It's so delicate. It has such a delicate constitution. Okay, let's make sure nothing is spilleth. Wait. Okay, nobody move. I put my weed down somewhere. Hold on. Wait, there it is. Okay. It's okay. Tragedy averted. All right. So, yes. So, for those, uh, I'm sure everyone who's listening right now knows. But for those of you who don't, I put on the Democracy Dino costume and returned to the streets of Los Angeles. And felt like I was able to explain why we were there. I'm really grateful for any of the news people even talking to us. So that was great. And the piece that was shared was really great. I really appreciated her sharing my little, one of my silly speeches. I made a lot of them today. I made a lot of speeches today. But it was good. It was good. Everybody was very nice. My friend begged me not to go onto the courthouse property behind the lawyers, but I thought, well, if I don't do that, then what am I doing here? So I took the opportunity to walk behind the Smirnoff lawyers. I hope that gets out there because the sign is funny and maybe people will read more about Smirnoff if they think it's funny. Um, the Smirnoff lawyers weren't scared. They laughed at me. They smiled. So I wasn't terribly scary. Anyway, I thought it was good. And I would like to be out more when there's an appropriate opportunity. I felt like this was a great one to talk about Executive Order 13848, among other things. So that's what I took my opportunity to talk about today. And it was okay. Nothing earth shattering, no lives saved, no thresholds crossed, no new nosebleed heights reached. It's all very normal. It's all very standard. And I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful that it was a good day and it was an easy protest or message, and we did what we came to do. So that's great. I've actually exceeded my expectations, frankly. I didn't think it would get any attention from the news. Just didn't seem like that big a deal. So the fact that somebody talked about it, that would be great. Yeah, I know. She was like, get back here. I said, what? What? I said, nobody's going to tackle a 60-year-old dinosaur. I'm not. I'm so not. But it was fun. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. So that's good. Fun's good. Fun, maybe somebody learned something. When Democracy Dino dances the stream, I saw up to 42. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. No, I know. Oh, I should, huh? Yeah, I should. That would be a good idea, huh, Tom? Have someone narrate while we're doing it. Get some real hashtags or information going. Yeah, I know there were a lot of trolls. I expected that. I just forgot before the stream this morning to set the subscribers only. I really, I really appreciate, yeah, I know, because it can get kind of boring, can't it, Tom? Um, I also really appreciate Gal, and I don't know how much Oomph was able to spend in stream, but I think he really definitely helped so much to whack the trolls. So I apologize if the trolls made it an unpleasant experience. But man, they are really they sure are angry I did that. Taylor, I think, said, or someone said something like, "Why is she picking on Flynn?" That has nothing to do with it. I think that's funny. Stupid, but funny. When the algorithm gets rolling, it helps those that haven't seen you. Yeah. Oh, I should really have done more, Tom. I'll do that. Thanks for that. Thank you for noticing that. I really appreciate that feedback. Because I think it would be good to have a lot of context. Yeah, that's a great observation. Thank you for that. I will definitely, because it's there's so much, right? And how would you know? Oh, Michael. I know. She's just trying to protect me. I know, Gal so did, and so did Jim, and you, and everyone. Teresa, everybody. Everyone has shared it. Paulina, I'm so grateful. Siegfried, everybody, all of you. Tom, I mean, I really appreciate. I just felt very loved the whole morning, the whole day. So thank you all. It really helped. It was great. It was really sweet. And Jay Rance, I know. I was just so grateful. Yeah. Yeah, I was glad. I was glad nothing happened. Nothing weird happened. Nothing stupid. The lawyers weren't mean. I got to encourage a bunch of interns walking into the building, telling them they were going to kill it out there. You go get that justice. You go do that. You go do that justice thing. Yeah, that's cute. It's cute. That was good. It was a good day. Okay. All right. Love you. Love you. Love you. I do. Oh, thank you, Michael. Oh, Tom, thank you. Thanks for doing that. I really appreciate that. I really do. I really do appreciate the incredible support. Like the quality of people here are really tremendous. It's too bad. It's too bad the people that set me up are so hateful. They really missed out. I think it's sad to miss out on good people in your life because there's plenty of people that just gain pleasure from tearing you down. I just don't know why we have to tear each other down. I mean, if you come for me, I'll tear you apart. But I wouldn't if you didn't. And most of them, I don't even know. Hal is good. Oh, I like Tara Dublin. She's hilarious. I like them all. I love Tony too. I didn't mean to be mean about Tony Michaels. I love Tony. I love everyone. Anyone who's really speaking up for democracy and trying to help people be smarter about it is really good in my book. So I can't complain at all. Hi, how are you? Welcome in. She does. I should send Tara an email. I think I talked to her a little bit when she was covering Joe Kent for a while. Yeah. Yeah, Tara, she was covering Joe Kent, who was running for House, probably. He's pretty dumb. He was running for House of Representatives, and he's a protege, or I guess um, Matt Gaetz was his handler. Um, but yeah, yeah. I love Tara. There's so many good people. There's so many good people. Makes up for all the shitty ones. Jim Super, brother of Clark. Clark Kent? No, not, no, no, Jim. Not that Joe. Joe Kent, is a nut. who probably became a nut because of significant trauma. I believe he lost his wife to, I don't know if it was cancer or something, a violent accident, but I don't remember. But yeah, Joe Kent is, oops, sorry about that. Kind of volume's freaking out. Um, Joe Kent's crazy, like MAGA, super crazy MAGA, super crazy MAGA, super crazy MAGA, super stupid crazy MAGA. That's what it is. Super stupid crazy MAGA. That's the hashtag. You're welcome. Anyway, yeah, so it was a good day. I don't even care about all the whatever, the noise. I'm just going to enjoy the good part of it. So it was fun. I had fun. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I don't think I saw his girlfriend or was his daughter there? I don't even know. Oh, there were some people that looked sad, but I don't think that was them. They would have been surrounded by press. But anyway, no worries. Okay, shall we get started? I think we should. I hope you had an excellent, what is today? I hope you had an excellent Monday. And gratefully for many of us, this Monday is over and we can put it in the books. And I just want you to not have to think about anything and just let my voice float into the subconscious. So I hope it should. I wish you low energy output listening for tonight. That you can just absorb whatever it is you need to hear, keep out the rest, and maybe even just drift off to sleep and dream about something completely different from anything about history or anything else. Oh, okay. I don't know. Something funny's happening with my. Let me see if that. Is that any better? Or is that too much? It looks like it might be topping out a little bit and getting distorted. I don't want to get distorted. So I'll do testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3, testing, testing, testing. Michael, Jim, Badger, Oomph, Monty Python. Always look on the bright side of life. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. That was my mother's favorite line. My mother loved that movie. I know. Who cares? Anyway. I really do hope you had a wonderful day. Okay. Again, just give me give me a give me a give me a stop sign if I'm if I'm annoying you with sound. All right, here we are. We are reading Democracy Awakening by Heather Cox Richardson. It is a recent book about the challenges to democracy over time. And, um, and how there are those in our midst who rise up to thank you for my catch. Thank you, Michael. There are those around us who will rise up and help uh, keep us moving towards a more perfect union, however that comes through. So, without further ado, this is Chapter 6 of Democracy Awakening. Positive Polarization. Courting white supremacists began the process of appealing to voters' fears, effectively dividing the country between allegedly good Americans and those allegedly seeking to destroy it. Nixon's media handlers vowed to reach voters by emotion rather than reason. Voters are basically lazy, one wrote. Reason requires a high degree of discipline, of concentration. Impression is easier. The emotions are more easily roused, closer to the surface, more malleable. Those handlers needed to create an other, and they had an obvious foil not only in black activism, but also in the rise of the New Left in the 1960s. College campuses were flooded with young adults born after World War II, the so-called baby boomers, and many were horrified by the excesses of communism in Joseph Stalin's purges in the Soviet Union, and as disgusted by the liberal consensus as the movement conservatives were. Witnessing racial turmoil at home and colonial struggles abroad, all the while living under the threat of nuclear war, they had given us hope that workers would ever usher in a more just form of government. Instead, leaders of the New Left called for a democracy of individual participation, one that valued individualism and the creativity of work rather than political organization to overthrow the nation's unjust systems. In 1964, students at the University of California, Berkeley, demanded the right to advocate for racial equality and opposition to direct U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. On December 2, 1964, more than 2,000 students entered Berkeley's Sproul Hall to put their bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus of the machine, and make it stop. The Deputy District Attorney for Alameda County, Edwin Meese III, got authorization from California's governor for a mass arrest of the protesters, and in the early hours of December 4th, police arrested about 800 students. Berkeley officials eventually backed down and let students set up information tables about various causes on the steps of Sproul Hall, but the image of students occupying the building worried voters who couldn't imagine what had happened to turn America's white, prosperous children into lawbreakers calling for individual expression their parents couldn't fathom. In 1966, Ronald Reagan won the California governorship by promising to clean up the mess in Berkeley. In 1968, Nixon's team offered voters a candidate weak on policy, but big on carefully curated images of traditional America under siege from others. His campaign contrasted powerfully with the chaos of the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where the New Left squared off against the Democratic establishment. There, in August, Chicago police, working for the city's mayor, Richard Daley, covered their badges and launched a police riot against the protesters. Nixon pulled together a coalition of pro-business Republicans, Southern racists, traditionalists, and law and order voters to win the White House, despite the fact that more Americans voted for other candidates than voted for him. Time magazine said Nixon's middle Americans prayed, loved America, and hated protesters and the angry minorities, quote, who got the government's attention while all they got was condescension and tax bills. They worried they were losing their country to liberals, intellectuals, radicals, and defiant youngsters, helped by a lying communications industry. I'm going to stop there and make a comment that sounds very much like what is being accused today, and those talking points and, I guess, literary devices, for lack of a better term, are again being weaponized. And it's not by mistake. It's because they work. They liked traditional family structures and worried about women working outside the home. They liked Goldwater and politicians like Reagan, who promised to end protests even if it takes a bloodbath, he said. This polarization of voters led to a logical next step: keeping the government in safe hands. It is also a great Supertramp song. Keeping the government in safe hands meant winning elections, and to win elections it might be necessary to cheat. While he was cultivating a public image as a statesman, behind the scenes Nixon and his men were undermining the peace talks in Vietnam to hurt the Democrats. The notion that members of a presidential campaign had worked with a foreign government to effect an election was so unthinkable that it was not until the 2017 discovery of notes from Nixon aide H.R. Haldeman that longtime rumors became accepted as fact. The logic, though, was simple. If Democrats were dangerous to others, extraordinary measures to keep them from office were justified. Nixon began his presidential term by trying to appeal to movement conservatives without undermining the liberal consensus. But his vague promises of peace with honor in Vietnam caught up with him when, instead of ending the war, he escalated it. Protesters called him out, and he responded by conflating loyalty to America with loyalty to the president. Commentary. Where does that sound familiar? Supertramp does not suck, Jim. You suck. How about that? You suck balls, so stop it. That's a terrible take. Supertramp is amazing. You're terrible. It's okay, everybody. Jim and I are friends, but not for long if he keeps it up with this Supertramp nonsense. In 1947, Congress had passed the National Security Act to concentrate foreign policy and military action in the executive branch, largely cutting out Congress from debates over military invention overseas. Nixon used that authority to manipulate foreign affairs to solidify domestic support, as Americans tend to rally around the flag during wartime. In November 1969, despite mounting opposition to the increased U.S. presence in Vietnam, he insisted that a silent majority agreed with his Vietnam policy. His language tied national pride to a Republican president. That's right, Jim, go to bed. It's bedtime stories and Supertramp never sucks. Thank you, Michael. At the end of April 1970, I love you, Jim, the president announced that he had sent ground troops into Vietnam's neighbor, Cambodia, and protests in the wake of the announcement led to the May shooting of 4 college students at Ohio's Kent State University. After he clumsily suggested that the shooting was the fault of the students themselves, voters in his key demographic, middle-class white Americans, were ready to abandon him. Thank you, Badger. Before the midterm elections of 1970, it was pretty clear to Nixon's advisers that they needed a Hail Mary plan to rally voters around the increasingly beleaguered president. Patrick Buchanan and Lee Atwater quite deliberately turned against what they called the media, the left, and the liberal academic community. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at chat. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. You guys stop making me laugh. Stop being funny. We all love Jim. No, don't do that. Don't do that. They called their strategy positive polarization because it stoked the anger they needed voters to feel in order to bother to show up to vote. I'm going to read that again. They called their strategy positive polarization because it stoked the anger they needed voters to feel in order to bother to show up to vote. A development they saw as good. This is the playbook. It isn't even a playbook. It's just what has been done and what has been proven to work. Why are we not looking more critically as a media? Buchanan wrote a memo to Nixon urging him to manipulate the media and warning, quote, "We are in a contest over the soul of the country now, and the decision will not be some middle compromise. It will be their kind of society or ours." Nixon's primary scapegoats in 1969 had been anti-Vietnam War protesters and college students, but after Kent State he expanded the list to include Black and brown Americans and other, quote, special interests who Nixon's team insisted wanted a redistribution of wealth so they wouldn't have to work. On the one hand, they were hard-working, tax-paying individuals. On the other hand were detractors of America, lazy people who wanted a government handout, which is another reliance on government, communism, socialism. Those are also echoes of what we hear today. This theme tied into the historical trope about Reconstruction. The idea that minority voting was simply a way to redistribute wealth to the undeserving. It revived an intellectual argument for the backlash against the civil rights movement, and Nixon worked to bring voters who didn't want to think of themselves as old-fashioned bigots to his standard. But the old-fashioned bigots came too. White Americans opposed to civil rights had resurrected the Confederate battle flag, and in May 1970, Nixon's vice president, Spiro Agnew, attended the dedication ceremony for the Confederate monument at Stone Mountain, Georgia, a project from the Reconstruction years that had been abandoned and then resurrected after Brown v. Board. The administration's strategy of polarizing the country to pick up voters began to shatter the liberal consensus. In 1971, lawyer Lewis Powell wrote a confidential memo for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, warning that corporate America needed to work harder to counter the liberal consensus and defend what he called free enterprise. Angry that activists like Ralph Nader had forced safety regulations onto automobile manufacturers and the tobacco industry, he believed that businessmen were losing their right to run their businesses however they wished. Any attack on the enterprise system, he wrote, was a threat to individual freedom. Powell believed that business interests needed to advance their principles aggressively in universities, the media, religion, politics, and the courts. The judiciary, he wrote, may be the most important instrument for social, economic, and political change. He wrote that civil rights activists and left institutions like the American Civil Liberties Union and labor unions were winning cases that hurt business. It is time for American business, which has demonstrated the greatest capacity in all history to produce and to influence consumer decisions, to apply its great talents vigorously to the preservation of the system itself. The following year, Nixon appointed Powell to the Supreme Court. While Justice Powell proved to be a far more moderate and consensus-minded than lawyer Powell, what he had advocated came to pass. Right-wing organizations began to push against the liberal consensus. The Heritage Foundation, the Hoover Institution, the American Enterprise Institute, the United States Chamber of Commerce, the Business Roundtable, and the National Association of Manufacturers all began to argue that the economic dislocations of the 1970s could be laid at the door of regulation and taxation, and that the country demanded market-based solutions. In that same year, Nixon turned the issue of abortion into another political wedge. Abortion was not yet legal nationally, but it had been decriminalized in many states in the 1960s after U.S. doctors called attention to the deadly health crisis of 200,000 to 1.2 million illegal abortions annually. By 1971, even the Evangelical Southern Baptist Convention agreed that abortion should be legal in some cases, and by 1972, Gallup pollsters reported that 64% of Americans agreed that abortion should be between a woman and her doctor. 68% of Republicans, who had always liked family planning, agreed, as did 59% of Democrats. In 1970, Nixon had directed U.S. military hospitals to perform abortions regardless of state law. Worried that Nixon would lose re-election, Pat Buchanan saw an opportunity to attract anti-abortion Catholic Democrats, and at his urging, the president in 1971 reversed course, citing a personal belief in the sanctity of human life, including the life of the yet unborn. Nixon supporters used abortion to stand for women's rights in general, which were under assault in the Southern Baptist Convention, as fundamentalists were working to take over the largest Protestant denomination in the U.S. In her first public comment on abortion, I remember this, activist Phyllis Schlafly said, "Women's lib is a total assault on the role of the American woman as wife and mother and on the family as the basic unit of society. Women's libbers are trying to make wives and mothers unhappy with their career. They are promoting federal daycare centers for babies instead of homes. They are promoting abortions instead of families." We were very aware of Mrs. Schlafly in my household. This sleight of hand rhetorically turned those who embraced the liberal consensus and its defense of equal rights for women into anti-family agitators. By 1972, Nixon had so internalized his own division of the nation into good and bad Americans that he became convinced that he must win the election to save America. And possibly he worried that if he lost, his people's undermining of the Vietnam peace talks in 1968 would be exposed. The Committee to Re-elect the President, aptly named CREEP, as its operations came to light, embarked on a course of campaign sabotage. They planted fake letters in newspapers, hired vendors for Democratic rallies, and then ran out on the unpaid bills, planted spies in opponents' camps, and tapped opponents' phones. Oh, sorry, that was a cat. Young operative Roger Stone claimed to be a socialist as he donated to one of Nixon's Republican challengers, then took the donation receipt to a reporter as proof that the opponent was a tool of the political left. One of their legal advisors called their methods rat-fucking. Their actions came to light on June 17, 1972, when security guard Frank Wills at the fashionable Watergate office complex found a door propped open and called the police. They caught 5 burglars bugging the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. The Watergate story didn't really catch on until after the election, so Nixon's divisive approach to politics worked in the short term. He won the 1972 election with an astonishing 60.7% of the popular vote, and by 520 to 17 in the Electoral College. You guys are great. After the election, the involvement of key figures in his administration in the Watergate break-in gradually came to light, and Nixon's cover-up of the attempt to rig the election shocked the nation, including members of his own party. On August 9, 1974, Nixon became the first, and so far only, president to resign. But while Nixon paid a price for his attempt to cheat in an election, his division of the world into good and evil began to take hold, perverting American politics by convincing his loyalists that putting their people in office was imperative, no matter what it took. Watergate eventually backfired on them, but Nixon's people had more luck when they experimented with rat-fucking elections in other countries. Under Nixon, the U.S. launched a successful operation in Chile that would be a laboratory for overturning a democratically elected leader without leaving obvious fingerprints. When voters in Chile elected moderate socialist Salvador Allende to the presidency there, Nixon's administration worked with the Central Intelligence Agency to promote a nationwide trucker strike that lasted 26 days in fall 1972 and started a labor crisis for the new president. Right-wing dictator Augusto Pinochet seized power in September 1973. The United States supported his reign of terror, including his infamous practice of throwing opponents out of helicopters. Nixon operative Roger Stone, who has a picture of Nixon tattooed on his back, later told a reporter, quote, "What I admire about Nixon was his resilience. It's attack, attack, attack." Close quote. Yep, they sure are. When will they die? I'm going to pause there for a moment before I get started with Chapter 7 and take a beverage, drink, and a little weed drink. And I'm going to put on a little music while I do that. Hold on. Let's see if I turn it real low. All right. Oh, thank you, weed. Hold on. Oh, that's good weed. I don't even know what I'm smoking. What's everybody smoking tonight? If you are. If you're not. Where's Paul? Where is everybody? Where's Pepper? Where's Pepper? Where's Paul? Hold on just a second. Where? I hope everybody's okay, ladies and friends. He's going to be. I'm glad. I'm glad he knows he's loved. That's the most important part. Well, I hope our friends check in tonight. I didn't get a chance to look at chat today. I wonder, I understand it was a little bit of a hellscape at times. I really can I bring out the best in everybody. I really do. I inspire all the best. All right. Let's check one thing. Oops. My God, my phone is really... Wait, what's that mean? Oh, I know what that means. I know what that means. Yeah, oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. I will say, I don't know what I'm smoking. Yeah, it is nice to see Jim and Michael. What is that? Old friends are like gold. I try to attend. I know. Here's the thing, Tom. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I totally understand. I was talking to the friend that came with me today and telling her, and she lurks. She doesn't chat. Oh, really? Interesting. That's interesting. Is that an indica? I don't know if I think I've heard of that strain, but I don't know if it's an indica. Sounds like it'd be a sativa though, you know. Um, mm-hmm. um, this is what I am proud about today is that Miranda Devine called me a paid operative. And, I mean, she just couldn't be farther from the truth, but that's okay. I got trolled by Miranda Devine. I, I, I told Oomph earlier, I'm like, I can die now. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be trolled by a Miranda Devine. So I'm alright with that. Okay. Oh, that was great. What a nice night. What a nice night. Yeah, probably. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. I would think it'd be given the hour. Given the lateness of the hour. Anyway. Oh, I am high. It's good. It's a good thing. It's good to be high sometimes. Let me adjust things here. Oh gosh. Sorry. I probably shouldn't touch my microphone. That's probably what it is. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Let me make sure. Okay. Now, as always, let me know if the sound is annoying and I will hasten to fix. And then I got high. I'm telling you, the minute I got home, I got high. The minute I got home, Tom, I ate cookie dough off the roll because my blood sugar was a little low. And then I got high. So I didn't, I didn't, no, no, no. Yeah. Anyway, that's what happened. And I'm not, I'm not lying. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know I can't remember what he just said. Anyway, I'm really high. Okay, but we're going to get through this because I can read. I can still read when I'm high. All right, here we go. Chapter 7. Cookie dough really hits the spot if your blood sugar is dropping. Okay, let me tell you. It's basically medicine at that point. Fight me. Okay. I didn't eat the whole thing. I ate just like a few decent bites. Okay, sorry. I'm high, you're high, we're all high. It's fine. It's hello. Welcome to what? Monday? It's Monday. It's all right. Or Tuesday. Depending on where you are, it's almost Tuesday. Okay, here we go. Chapter 7. The Reagan Revolution. In 1974, most Americans thought they had put Nixon and his crimes behind them. But 6 years after Nixon resigned, Ronald Reagan would travel the road to the White House that Goldwater and Nixon had paved. This would include sabotaging the previous administration's efforts at diplomacy, in this case delaying the release of 52 American diplomats and private citizens being held hostage in Iran. He would also use Nixon's rhetorical strategy to continue the process of rolling back the liberal consensus and recreating a nation based on the idea that some people are better than others. A big fan of Goldwater, Reagan had been an actor, and he had honed Nixon's rhetoric with a soft voice and made up stories that pitted hard-working white men against a grasping government that served special interests and non-existing black people living it up on the taxpayer's dime. His language brought together images of race and class that movement conservatives had taken from the Reconstruction years. He promised to defend hard-working white Americans and cultivated an image of himself as a cowboy, with the anti-government, racist, and traditionalist saddlebags that image carried. Reagan had been an early supporter of William F. Buckley Jr.'s National Review, which promised to tell the violated businessman's side of the story. Much as Buckley advocated, Reagan constructed a world based deliberately on false image of people who believed in using the government to create an equitable society, especially Democrats. Movement conservatives described the U.S. as if it were in dire economic straits, but that image was rooted in the racial and cultural complaints rather than in reality. In fact, the economy had boomed in the 50s and continued to grow in the 1960s, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a common way of measuring the stock market, breaking 1,000 for the first time in January 1966. No, I didn't hear about that, Tom. I did not hear about that. Whoops, now I just hit the button. Stocks continued to rise. Economic growth, along with the new social welfare programs, meant that the poverty rate fell fast. From 1959 to 1966, the number of people living below the poverty line fell from 39 million to 30 million, even as the population grew by about 2.5 million a year. The picture was not uniformly rosy. Family income for all Americans trended upward, but the gaps between black and white families were still wide. In 1968, black families made only about 59% of the income of white families, though that ratio was declining. At the same time, corporate mergers were wiping out small businesses, and manufacturing was moving to the South or overseas. This change was hollowing out northern industrial cities, frustrating the black Americans who had moved to the cities in the past decades and workers in general. He lied to investigators about that. He had a fake Twitter account? Oh my God, I gotta read about that, Tom. I did not hear about that. Oh, I'm so excited. What an idiot. God, he's a dork for being a lawyer. He's like so stupid. He's in real trouble. Like, if you listen to the Eastman stuff, he's in real trouble. Attempting to address persistent inequality and urged on by the New Left, Democratic leadership sought to include more voices directly in their party apparatus. After the 1968 debacle at their national convention, a committee concluded that the party must work to include minorities and women at the national level. But that doubling down on inclusion helped movement conservatives to court white workers who had been left behind by the changing economy. They painted the Democrats as a party of grievance and special interest who simply wanted to pay off lazy supporters rather than being interested in the good of America as a whole. Thank you, Tom. I heard he denied having social media accounts. Oh my goodness, I can't wait. Manufacturing jobs continued to disappear, driving unemployment upward, just as inflation soared because of the massive cost of Vietnam War and new social programs, as well as the oil embargo launched again. Suddenly, the economic model of the liberal consensus could be interpreted as a grave error. In his campaign for president in 1980, Reagan, whose advisors included some of Nixon's, such as Paul Manafort and Roger Stone, spun the story of a welfare queen from south side of Chicago, code words for black, who lived large on government benefits she stole. Reagan launched his presidential candidacy at Philadelphia, Mississippi, 16 years and 3 miles from where civil rights workers James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner had been found murdered by members of the Ku Klux Klan. "I believe in states' rights," Reagan said, and the Republican platform promised to protect the private segregation academies organized to prevent desegregation. A more fake Twitter account. Yeah, right, exactly. Apart from the lies he actually, wrote memos about. Reagan's coalition also picked up those traditionalists appalled by the growing public role of American women. In 1974, the cowboy Little Joe of Bonanza had turned into Pa Ingalls in the popular television series Little House on the Prairie, which would stay on the air until 1982. Played by actor Michael Landon, Pa was a benevolent patriarch who loved and cared for his wife and daughters while they lived homebound and moral lives. Thank you. Okay, wow. The series echoed the hugely popular books by Laura Ingalls Wilder, which had been shaped and edited by her daughter, libertarian Rose Wilder Lane, to be an anti-New Deal screed. The real life of the Ingalls family was not one in which the women and girls, not Pa, supported the family, and the West depended on the federal government, but the image of the traditionalist family gripped in the country. Prairie dresses were the rage in the late 1970s. I just had my mind blown with that entire section. First of all, I'm making some commentary. I remember distinctly when Reagan was elected, we campaigned for Carter, and I remember our family being extraordinarily depressed that Reagan won, and during his entire thing, and I wore a prairie dress and all of that shit. And I am now cringing. I'm cringing. It was, and I did not know that about the Ingalls family. So I admit I am today years old when I learned that Laura Ingalls Wilder's books were respun by her sister, who's a libertarian. Wow. Boy, reading is fundamental. Sorry. Okay. I mean, we hated Reagan. I knew that, but I did not put those other things. Wow. Reagan also married the Republican Party and movement conservatism to right-wing religious groups. By 1979, the fundamentalists had successfully taken over the Southern Baptist Convention, electing their candidate to be its president. Under him, the Southern Baptists abandoned their previous willingness to include women and minorities and to support reproductive rights. In the article, it gives the Twitter account name. I guess it's still up, but it's locked. Oh, Ingalls Nietzsche sisters. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you had sisters, you knew. There you go. Man, I thought I looked really hot in those, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. Anyway, let's see. Where am I? Convention. Electing their okay. Sorry. Under him, The Southern Baptists abandoned their previous willingness to include women and minorities and to support reproductive rights. They became active in politics, staunchly supporting the Republican Party, and in the 1980s numbered about 15 million people. A televangelist, Reverend Jerry Falwell, formed the moral majority, and Reagan made it clear he was one of their number. As it gathered those angry at the modern world, Reagan's campaign invited voters to remember a time before black and brown voices and women began to claim equal rights. His campaign passed out buttons and posters urging voters to make America great again. So there you go. Ingalls, EJ. Well, now I get it. Media literacy. Am I right? Democratic President Jimmy Carter, who was running for re-election, accurately challenged Reagan's record, but the press bought into movement conservatives' complaints that they were victims of a liberal media. That term originally referred to a media that required fact-based argument, but it quickly became a code word for political bias. When Carter called out the racism in Reagan's states' rights speech, I remember that, the press attacked him for being mean, although the Mississippi Republican chair had deliberately set up an appearance at the Neshobe County Fair to attract George Wallace's pro-segregation voters. More powerfully, in a late October debate, when Carter accurately explained Reagan's opposition to Medicare and Social Security, Reagan retorted with a sarcastic weariness, "There you go again." I remember that too, Bronte. No, don't say that. Are you kidding? Don't ruin. Are you ruining? Is Bronte ruined? Oh man. Dang it. The quip became shorthand for the idea that Reagan's opponents were scolds or were exaggerating when they cited facts. Where have you heard that? The campaign worked. Voters put Reagan into the White House. In his inaugural address, he promised to protect a special interest group that had been too long neglected, we the people, this breed called Americans. He warned that in the present crisis, okay, don't make that stuff up. Now I'm going to have to check. After years of rhetoric, the Reagan administration set out to unwind the laws that had brought the liberal consensus of the post-World War II years to life. Reagan's belief in supply-side economics and overturned the economic justification of the liberal consensus, which was based on the idea that helping poorer people, those on the demand side, would expand the economy. I love the borrowers. I love that. Those on the demand side, Instead, Reagan's people argued that cutting taxes on wealthier Americans would free up capital for them to reinvest in businesses that would, in turn, hire more American workers. Trickle down. They promoted that a rising tide would lift all boats. They promised that their new booming economy would produce record amounts of tax money and thus would pay for itself. According to this theory, voters could have both low taxes and expanded services. It was an extraordinarily attractive theory, but when the computers at the Office of Management and Budget projected that rather than balancing the budget, Reagan's proposed cuts would create budget deficits of up to $116 billion by 1984. Reagan's budget director, David Stockman, simply reprogrammed the computers. "None of us really understands what's going on with all these numbers," he told a reporter. "The whole thing is premised on faith," he explained, "on a belief about how the world works." That's a quote. That faith was divorced from reality, and the gap between ideology and reality would only get wider over time. By every measure, 1981 marked a dramatic change in the distribution of American wealth. From the beginning of the New Deal in 1933 until the election of Reagan in 1980, while the economy expanded dramatically for all, the gap between rich and poor in America got smaller. Economists call this the Great Compression. In the years after 1981, the economy continued to grow, but wealth moved dramatically upward in what's known as the Great Divergence. Massive tax cuts in 1981 and 1986 cut top income tax rates from 70% to 30%, cut estate taxes, and cut windfall profit taxes. At the same time, the administration slashed spending on public welfare programs while pouring money into defense spending, raising it from $267.1 billion in 1980 to $393.1 billion in 1988, from 22.7% of public expenditure to 27.3%. The national debt tripled from $738 billion to $2.1 trillion, turning the United States from the world's largest creditor nation to the world's largest debtor nation. But that huge government spending, for the military now rather than social welfare programs, boosted the economy effectively enough that Republicans claim their system worked. The jobs their spending created, though, were in defense, where minority workers had less traction. Although black and brown Americans, women, and organized workers warned they were falling behind, American voters re-elected Reagan in 1984, but they did not give Republicans control of Congress. Indeed, they left Democrats with a commanding majority in the House of Representatives and switched 2 Senate seats to the Democrats, although the Republicans still held the Senate. The American people appeared to be turning against the Reagan experiment. In 1986, Democrats picked up 5 seats in the House and 8 in the Senate, regaining control of the upper chamber. So the administration increased the volume of movement conservative rhetoric, using new microphones to amplify their message. In 1987, members of the Federal Communications Commission appointed by Reagan ended the Fairness Doctrine, which had protected public information since the earliest days of radio in the 1920s. In order to get a public license, a radio station had to agree to present information honestly and fairly and to balance different points of view. Movement conservatives demanded an end to the Fairness Doctrine so they could push their ideology of individualism and Christianity. The tax cuts, Reagan, yeah, I remember all of that. The Jackson-Vanik Amendment. Oh, I don't remember that, Tom. Dances with Snakes. Yeah, for real. Reagan's FCC obliged, just as the higher quality of FM radio had sent AM radio operators searching for profitable new formats. Those operators turned to talk radio, whose hosts soon realized that shocking political talk won listeners. By 1988, hosts like Rush Limbaugh had gone national. His attacks on feminazis, liberals, and black Americans, and his insistence that socialism was creeping throughout America, attracted like-minded listeners. Oh, the Black Widow. I thought you meant the one with okay, so my favorite Black Widow movie isn't the superhero movie. It's the one with Teresa. I can't remember her name. And the girl from Urban Cowboy. But it's a murder mystery, and it's called Black Widow, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Actually, we need to watch that in the lounge. Okay, sorry. I'm getting distracted. Okay, here we go. Their opponents, who were portrayed as the country's enemies, kept their heads down. The 1988 presidential election demonstrated the growing hold that movement conservative thinking had over the Republican Party. Deborah Winger, thank you. Oh my God. Teresa, she's so beautiful. Oh my God, it's such a great movie. Oh my God, thank you, Tom. The party's nominee, Vice President George H.W. Bush, who had generally embraced the liberal consensus, capitulated to the extremist faction of the party when his poll numbers fell 17 points below those of his Democratic opponent, Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis. Bush's campaign manager, former Nixon operative Lee Atwater, and media advisor Roger Ailes, who had promoted Nixon in 1968, produced the infamous Willie Horton ad, laying the groundwork for a new kind of right-wing television in which ideological propaganda would be filmed as if it were a news story, making it hard for viewers to tell the difference. The ad showed a mugshot of Horton, a black criminal who had been allowed out of prison for a weekend, and while out had raped a white woman and stabbed her boyfriend. Although Horton had been released under a program established by Dukakis's Republican predecessor, the narrative of a Democrat putting white people at risk to cater to black criminals overrode reality. Making amends at the end of his life, Atwater apologized for the, quote, naked cruelty of his actions and acknowledged that Bush won handily, in part because of our successful manipulation of his campaign themes. Oh, yeah, it has been an amazing day. You don't have to shut up at all. I have to not get distracted. But do see Black Widow. It's a great movie, and I'll watch the other one too. Bush also allowed Atwater and his allies Roger Stone and Paul Manafort to tar Dukakis for obeying the law by refusing to require teachers to lead students in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Dukakis pointed out that his state Supreme Court had advised against it on the basis of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, but Bush attacked him anyway. Once in office, Bush tried to regain control of the party, but its weight had shifted irrevocably. In 1990, GOPAC, I remember that, the Republican state and local political training organization under the direction of Georgia Representative Newt Gingrich, distributed a memo titled Language, a Key Mechanism of Control, to elected Republicans. The paper urged them to refer to Democrats with words like corrupt, cheat, disgrace, endanger, failure, hypocrisy, intolerant, liberal, lie, pathetic, sick, steal, traitors, waste, welfare, and abuse of power. In 1992, after losing a presidential bid, talk show host and former Goldwater speechwriter Pat Buchanan gave a barn-burning speech at the Republican National Convention in Houston. He credited Reagan both with creating a booming economy and with winning the Cold War. In contrast, he denigrated Democrats as liberals and radicals who engaged in the greatest single exhibition of cross-dressing in American political history when they called themselves moderates and centrists. He attacked the discredited liberalism of the 1960s and the failed liberalism of the 1970s, claiming that Democrats wanted unrestricted abortion on demand and homosexual rights, and that they objected to religious schools and supported radical feminism. There was a culture war underway, Buchanan said. My friends, this election is about more than who gets what. It's about who we are. It's about what we believe and what we stand for as Americans. There is a religious war going on in this country. It is a cultural war, as critical to the kind of nation we shall be as was the Cold War itself, for this war is for the soul of America. In his telling, American values centered not on democracy, but on freedom. And in that struggle for the soul of America, Buchanan made clear, Democrats were the enemy, and Republicans were on the side of angels. Republicans had created an underclass of Americans increasingly falling behind economically, and crucially, they had given that underclass someone to hate. That is the end of chapter 7. Oops. Go. My goodness. Thank you. Wow. I'm so grateful that that we thought about this. I don't know who inspired me to do this. No, I actually do think it was Oomph. Because I think it was some good feedback on oh, you like that voice? Do you like what I'm talking about? I'm talking about democracy in that sexy voice. I'm just trying not to keep people awake. Holy fuck. How are you, friend? Good to see you. Um, and oh, whoops. We have a stuck chat. Let me refresh the chat. I think it was Oomph because he gave me some good feedback on reading documents, and I thought, wow, I really want to do I really want to read these books. Yeah, it does it for me. It does it for me too. I know. That's hilarious. No, I know. Yeah, I get that chapter was so important. That chapter was so important. God, there is just so much. I'm very curious about and I realize the book by design, is staying at a pretty high level, right? It's not going deep into a lot of these situations. I mean, each chapter could be entire volumes, right? I mean, I think that it's just like you wouldn't have to you couldn't possibly do any of these justice in what she's trying to do in that way. And so I am actually really grateful because I think I think in when it comes to media literacy, I think it's important to meet people where they are, right? Like, I think it's just really important to meet people where they are and give them an entry point. And for me, what this does is give me, yeah, Rick Wilson, what this does is give me inspiration to like find out more. I want to find out more about I have always wanted to find out more about how the Republican Party became so very emboldened and um, antithetical to what I grew up thinking they were. I'm sorry, I know that's naive. I get that. I'm just being honest. So I think from that standpoint, yeah, I just think I'm just really grateful that we're reading this. It's helping me a lot because I feel like one of my struggles, well, I have a lot of struggles, but one of them is just the knowledge, like just the context, the historical context. Again, not that this is going to like, make me smart necessarily, but it really is helping. Boy, does it help. Oops, sorry about that. Anyway, oops, sorry. Computer. You had your own bowling league, own Newt Greenwich. That's right. Diverse group of athletes. That's so cool. So cool. It's it's so important. It's so important. All right, so programming note. Let's see. So tomorrow is Tuesday. I don't really. Okay, so here's what I think. There may be a hearing in the Nathan Wade. I don't know if it's ex parte, but there may be an Atlanta hearing later in the morning, early afternoon. So check if you are interested. Please subscribe and check the channel in the morning, and I'll be up and scanning for events. But I will see you, if not tomorrow, I will definitely see you Wednesday. Oh, actually, I will see you tomorrow because I will do a chapter or two tomorrow night. So I will definitely be live tomorrow night. Or we'll do a space. I'm not sure what Gal Squad is up to, so I'll check in with friends, see if there's an opportunity to do a space too. So that's always fun. So thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. Yeah. Peace, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful sleep. Of course. Thank you. Have an incredible sleep. Get some good rest. Forget about everything else. You got this. This day's out. It's done. Put it away. You're into tomorrow. All right. Good night. Tom, you send me anything you want, darling. All right? I love what you send me. All right? You hang in there. I appreciate you all, and I appreciate everything you send.